it's your boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AD or Alphadean. We have Spiggs 18 or Anthony. Just as a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch or subscribe to us over on YouTube. Preferably both if you really love us. Helps the channel out a ton. And yeah, we really appreciate all the support. We're trying to reach even greater heights, and we can only do that with your help. And yeah, without further ado, Dean, what are we doing here tonight?
Well, tonight is going to be a fun night. It's actually going to be something that I think everybody's going to appreciate a little bit. We're going to talk about the flexibility, the combinability, the absolute attainability that Cypher allows you to do whatever it is you want to do. And we're going to take a couple of, we're all going to talk about a concept based on two books, from Cypher System, whether they're genre books or the setting books or whatever, and we're going to combine them into another setting to create something unique. And that's what we're going to talk about, and each of us chose two books. Each of us have come up with a concept, and I kind of find that they're really how different they are is really cool, but at the same time, it's like, pretty cool as hell too, because like I think we all use one of the same books. So
yeah, that's how we get into the thing before.
Yeah, so go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, so this idea came from listening on just conversations happening on Discord. Like we saw, I was just like over the weekend, I think this conversation came up multiple times. People just like constantly happens on the Discord server. You get a couple of creative minds start chatting about a setting or a genre that they would like to see in Cypher System. So I thought this would be a good idea for a show. So for today, we're going to figure out how, and we'd like to talk about how easy it is to combine multiple setting books with the Cypher System to create different and interesting adaptations or a new setting entirely in the Cypher System. Before we decided about this show, we each will tackle something new that we feel isn't currently covered in the Cypher System product lines, just to make it easy on us and you, the viewers. I asked Al and Dean to try to stick to only two setting books and the CSR, of course, because that's the base. So let's get our little experiment started. And we rolled the dice randomly before the show started. And Al, you were first. So what did you decide to create? And what two books? Oh, hold on, let me repeat that. I rolled the dice randomly before we started. And Al, you are first. So what two books did you decide to use? And what setting or genre are you trying to recreate?
Wait, before we go any further. It is so crazy. Brilliant loser. Love you, Jesus. He knows Al so well. What wacky stuff will Al use Predation for?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, because I do not recall any dice being rolled, but either way, I'm more than fine going first, because this idea seems pretty fun. I've been thinking about it quite a bit. And Jesus hit the nail on the head with one of the two books I chose, one of them being Predation, and the other one being Unmasked. And we're combining those to create magical girls with magical creatures. And the premise of that would be, wait, well, let me pull up the notes, even though it's very simple. What is it? You would reskin the dinosaur companions of Predation, and you would find the rules for that within Predation pages 46 to 59. That would be the companions. And you reskin those into the relevant magical creatures. And then you basically just lift the complete character creation from Unmasked, and that will provide you with the teen/human form and a mask form. In this universe or setting, it would be more like your magical person form. And you would find the character creation of Unmasked in within pages 14 through 62 of Unmasked. And yeah, I feel like those two together can combine into this magical girls thing really well. We've always been talking about Unmasked being very transmutable into magical girls. And with Anthony provoking or thought-provoking question us what would you combine together, it made me think, hey, I love Predation, most magical girl shows usually have like a little monster or something that either is giving the contracts or whatever have you. So yeah, I thought it'd be cool if each player would have like a contract or something with their companion, and yeah, there's a little give and take there because these companions in these magical girl shows, it really depends on which one, but they're not always entirely either reliable or there or whatever have you. Sometimes they're even kind of working against you in a way. Like there's a lot of ways you can play with the companion mechanic within a magical girl setting, and I think it would be super duper fun. And one other thing before I open this up into into conversation, another thing I would do within this like little setting with the CSR is I would allow players or characters, whatever have you, to flesh out their companions a little bit more by allowing them to choose any low-powered ability from the CSR. And you would find the ability options in pages 95 through 200 of the Cypher System revised core book. And that would just be a fun way to like really instill that magical essence of the world, and also maybe give the players a way to have some sort of magic / survivability when not in their magical form, because they'll have their magical companion like combine with some magical powers. And I think that'd be a lot of fun to kind of work out.
Okay, dude.
I was just saying now that's like really cool. What's funny about that, because we've talked about magical girls so many times, but just when you were describing your concept, it like took me to the thought process of not just magical girl, but like a few of these other ones that are coming out now, like was it a Jujutsu Kaisen or whatever it is? That one is really interesting because they have like the demon forms and the magical forms that come up, and somebody else said persona in the so yeah, it's really cool. So you actually came up with something that's not just magical girl, but encompasses a lot of different aspects of anime. That's pretty damn cool.
I have a couple mechanical questions. So the first one, I'm assuming, I think the idea is hella cool. That goes with when you mentioned it originally, I thought it was hella cool. But so are you using the full predation mechanic rules? So I'm assuming that other players are controlling the magical creatures for each individual character. They don't control it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm 100% on board with that. And the other thing I have is what kind of because excuse me if I'm not well versed in magical girls, but what kind of creatures are we talking about?
Oh, the player would have to define it, honestly. Like, they're so, like, if you ever watch those, like, they vary so much. They're just some, like, little magical thing. Like, they can really be whatever you want. Like,
they're like imps and gremlins
or cats, like.
But it's not like something.
No, I'm not asking what they look like. I mean, like, ability-wise. Like,
oh no, that I think also could be you just make you literally create the predation like companion as per predation, right? You just reskin it, like the Tyrannosaurus Rex will be a bulky guy, and the Velociraptor will be like a speedy guy or whatever, right? And then on top of that, literally any abilities from the CSR low powered one, and again you let the players decide what that is, and you work with them as a GM to like flavor how that might work in the universe. And yeah, I think it like really these things are magical and sometimes even beyond human comprehension. So it's not really like a stretch for them to be powerful in some way.
So would it be out of the realm in question to have the if they have like abilities that we would be able to pull from the CSR book, right? Would it be like away from the genre if we had a chart and the abilities would be random? You know what I mean? So you didn't know what your magical creature is capable of doing.
No, that would actually encourage that as a starting point. If we're doing a campaign, you just like we tossed around the idea. I don't know. I think Dean might have done it, where you play a game of Unmasked, but you don't know what your mask form is until you actually go to transform, and then you get handed your basically. Yeah, I would encourage something like that. It wouldn't be 100% necessary, but it would be a cooler aspect. Yeah.
The reason why I was thinking that because it further ties into the combination of predation and unmasked, because it's you hit the nail on the head. In Unmasked you don't necessarily know what abilities you have. So since we're like talking about combining these two books, I just personally thought it would be like a cool aesthetic to be like, you don't know what your magical creatures abilities have similar to Unmasked. You know what I mean?
Then that could be like a fun thing to do. Now that you said that, and take it a step further and just make the whole magical creature a randomized thing. So you know what, you could literally build your creature randomly. Like maybe have it make a flurkin. you know.
No, but now that
Oh,
we're
you
talking about it, no. You want to go ahead?
No, I was gonna say you don't cool too, or you could have everybody roll random on the chart, right? And they build this character, and then they'll be like, "Oh, I freaking love this guy!" And then at the beginning of the game, you'd be like, "Okay, hand your magical creature to the person to your left."
Right.
You know what I mean?
Another cool aspect could be because we coming from Predation, we know there's two character sheets. There's one for you. There's one mini one for the companion. You can come at it from, hey, I'm going to be playing your companion. I'm going to craft your companion and not tell you about it. Nothing at all. Like, you won't know anything about what's on my sheet. And then we meet in game.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying about like the randomized chart. That would be like hella cool if you just had a chart like that, and then you take it that step further where you're saying, okay, well, that person is playing my companion, but I haven't met him yet, or her, or it, or them, however you want to play it.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome. a fun take on it. I would definitely implement that if I were to run this.
And the magical girls themselves have abilities, correct?
Yeah, and then that's where like the magical form, mask form comes in, where you get your superpowers or whatever. Yeah.
Like Ruby, that was one of my. I enjoyed Ruby a lot. They didn't have necessarily creatures, but they all got like wild weapons. In Ruby.
Do you have like a general idea how you would start this game, or how you? I'm not saying like mechanically, but like if you was just fleshing out.
Nope. So what I would do is I would approach this every single way I approach basically every game I'm gonna run. Sometimes, well, these days I'll say what a huge way I've been, because after playing solo a little bit with Morkborg and thinking about it for Cypher System, I've come to really embrace random tables. So if I'm trying to think of an idea for my, like for instance, for this game, for a Magical Girls game, I would literally pull up an adventure generator, either a generic one or whatever, and roll until I find something I like, and then kind of mishmatch it until it works. But the main premise with Magical Girls, though, to really capture that is whatever story's given to me, right? You gotta have some kind of danger when you're not in the magical form, like something that's dangerous to the teams, like, or when you're a human. There's usually some danger when you're a human before you get to being Magical Girl, right? And then once you're a Magical Girl, or a magical person, whatever, male, female, whatever have you, then the baddies, the monsters themselves, usually transform also. Kind of like Power Rangers, right? The baddies get just bigger, and then you get in the Zords or whatever have you. Kind of similar to that. So I think what I would really, even whatever like motifs or like adventure sentence was thrown at me, I would definitely try to tweak it in such a way that there's an element of danger for them when they're humans, like in their human form, and then tweak the ending to have that, cinematic BBEG fight with the transformation in there. Because again, there's usually, if you can do it, the opponents usually can too.
So, is there usually like one power source in these things? Like, I've seen some Magical Girls shows, but Magical Girls is like, would Sailor Moon be characterized as Magical Girls? Right?
It's the original.
So yeah, like the power source comes from a ton of different
directions.
So would you have to predetermine what your power source is?
I mean, for flavor, yeah, you could say, hey, where do you draw your power? Do you have a pact with your creature? Does it come from the elements? Like, where does it? That's pure flavor, and yeah, we could definitely roll like. In my mind, like, again, I like to make up stuff, so I would not have a fleshed out setting in mind for running a Magical Girl games. I would let the players fill in those gaps for me. So when it comes to like what powers is it a pact? Is it something elemental? Is it something spiritual? But that's on the players to figure out.
Nice.
Yeah, I really like it. I would definitely play this. I like the way that you came up with two creative ways to and two vastly different books. You know, like Predation and like I like the fact that you didn't go the claim the sky route, which you could have, and you went with Unmasked. And I could absolutely see why you went with Unmasked because it does go with the magical girl flavor. I really like this combination of two books. And essentially anyone could do this exercise because that's why we're having this discussion. You know, it comes up all the time on the server when someone says, like, how do I do this? And it usually leads into a long discussion of someone saying, I did all this work to create insert game here, insert genre here, insert famous TV show here, when essentially with a little creative thinking, all the work is done for you already. It's just about seeing what books are out there and reflavoring instead of having to redesign the wheel. You know what I mean? It's having the mindset to reflavor stuff.
Yeah.
Dean, you was gonna say something?
No, I was just saying, yeah, I was agreeing with you.
Mm. Yeah, because I really like this.
I should run it because Unmasked really doesn't get enough love.
And to be honest, we pigeonholed ourselves because we only chose two books. You know, you could have expanded this even further if you added, a couple of other books. And I noticed that on mine when I was cursing myself for only limiting it to two books because there was really a third book I wanted to add into my, my concept.
Well, you give the third book an honorable mention as you talk about it, but the reality is we're just showing what two books can do. But that's not to say, like you said, not to say that you can't use more, or even, get a little inspiration, even though you're only using two books.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. So, Al, you have anything else you want to say about Magical Girl? And any like ideas and thoughts of just from thinking about it now further that you would include or add anything to?
All right. Since we're talking honorable mentions, quote unquote, right? Someone in the chat, Nicole Lee, or hopefully I'm saying that right. Either way, they say Madoka because that's my favorite magical girl like series. It's kind of magical girl plus horror, and of course with horror you would want some Stay Alive in there. So yeah, if you were trying to do like a darker side magical girl, which exists, there's plenty of. It's not just Madoka. I feel like there's other ones that I'm blanking on, but either way. Yeah, you Stay Alive is a must. Like you want those like horror mechanics in there. They definitely add to that essence, that ambiance.
Nice.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could also see if I think of magical girl, I think of magic and whimsical. Brilliant, he's like nailing everything. But I was also thinking of Shauna Germain's book too. Would actually.
We're all mad here.
Yeah, we all mad here would be another good one.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, not bad.
All right, Anthony. Well, you got to go next. You've been called out.
Yeah. All right. So it's no secret that I have a love for horror. I think everyone that knows me and knows that Stay Alive is my favorite book. So I absolutely was gonna use Stay Alive. And when I got this whole idea in the first place is because I saw I had posted on the gallery and on Discord an image of like 3 horror characters on a Mount Rushmore, and I asked everyone who would be your fourth, right? And and the image had Freddy Krueger, Jason, and Michael Myers on it, right? And then it created like this whole chat of people just talking about who were there for. And personally, my fourth would have been Pinhead. So then that got me thinking that I really want to create a game in the Hellraiser universe. But I wanted to do something different. Right. So what I wanted to do is there's no Cypher System book that deals with evil campaigns. So I wanted to base my game in the Hellraiser universe, but I wanted all the players to be playing Cenobites, essentially. Right. So the 2 books I chose to do were Stay Alive and Claim the Sky. Right. And since it's an evil campaign, it's an evil game. You know what I mean? I wanted to be able to give the Cenobites abilities and stay alive. So for the stay alive books, I wanted to use the basic how to run a horror game for page 21. The Encyclopedia Horror Mechanics, which is freaking awesome, and that starts on page 84. And most importantly, I wanted to use the ciphers and artifacts from the Stay Alive books, and that's on page 119 and 128. And from Claim the Sky, I just wanted to use the ability section. So that starts on page 42 and I wanted to use the superpower rules, which basically has the extended power ship section and the power stunts. Al doesn't know what a Cenobite is.
I was just gonna pop in and ask.
Al, you never seen the Hellraiser? You never seen?
No, sir.
Anyone hasn't seen Hellraiser?
Basically, Cenobites are like these extra dimensional beings that exist right outside of the dimensional realm, and they enter our reality through time in a schism through time and space, right? And it's usually there's this box, right? It's called the Lamet configuration, and it's like a puzzle box. I know you've seen the puzzle box. You never seen the puzzle box?
I'm pretty sure I've seen images of the box. Yeah.
And basically, they're all about pain and pleasure and torture and masochism.
They essentially feed on the suffering of others, right? So, in order for a Cenobite to strive and survive, it feeds on the suffering of others. So they torture people, right? And they torture people and feed off their pain, right?
Is that what the Hellraiser is?
Yes.
Like the guy, like the Pinhead?
Yeah. Pinhead is a Cenobite.
He's the
lead Cenobite. He's
okay.
Team.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cool. All right, so basic concept was, right, that everyone's going to start off the game as freshly formed Cenobites, and they're trapped in the puzzle box, right, the Lamet configuration. And I wanted to set it in the year 2086 to give me a little leeway on what the NPCs or the baddies against the Cenobites could do. Like I could add a little sci-fi element into it, right? And they're discovered by a coven of extremely powerful witches who want to control and slowly drain the powers of the players, right? So my thinking was that the players would need to figure out a way to escape this witch's magical entrapment. So in my mind, I'm thinking a mix between magic and science, like a magic containment circle, where the players start the game trapped in this circle, and they're being drained. So they don't have the ability to use their power shifts or apply effort. So they will have to figure out how to escape this, magical circle, and then deal with the coven itself. So that was like that's basically, anybody who knows me, I'll start a game with just that information, right? And I think that it's very easy to create the Cenobites with using abilities, like make everybody have different abilities. We'll just flavor them with a horror theme. And I also didn't want to make it so easy, since we're doing bad characters, like evil characters. I didn't want to make it easy for them to be able to steamroll regular humans. That's why I came up with the Coven of Witches as my concept, because that way I can make the NPCs have some abilities that can actually fight off the Cenobites and pose a threat to them in the game, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that concept sounds mad fun, and I don't even know anything about Hellraiser. The concept of you playing as an evil demon, essentially, just to break it down for others who don't know Hellraiser, is how I'm imagining it. You play as a band of fledgling demons who are just born into the world but trapped in a circle, and you have to figure out how to destroy the coven that summoned you, and break their hold on you. Yeah, that sounds so fun.
Also, putting it in the future, I figured that I could, if say they do escape, and because players do what players do, players ruin any plan every GM has.
Plans.
So by placing it in the future, say they kick the witches' asses like in the first hour of the game, I could have them trapped on a space station on the moon. I could have them on a spaceship because they don't know. The first hour of the game will be in this magical circle trying to figure out. So that's why I wanted to give myself a little leeway of putting it far enough in the future where there could be a base on the moon or something like that, just in case, they steam through whatever, whatever scenes I have planned in the first hour or so.
Another thing you could also do there, Anthony, because remember, because of the Lamet configuration, it is a extra dimensional idiom, so it's a lot like the TARDIS. It's a it's a tesseract of sorts. So they could think they've actually escaped and only be in another level of the box, and you could have a whole nother set of evil people for them to go up against, because you could say the Coven of Witches, maybe this Coven of Witches, this was their initiation into a more powerful cabal. And so when they beat them, oh, wait a minute, we thought we were free and we're not, so you could do so many things.
Techman also brought up a great point. Techman, we haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back, dude. Techman brought a great point too. If you watch any or read any of the Clive Barker books, once you defeat a Cenobite, they turn back to their human form. Right. So we could play around with that, and it'll be really cool. You know what I mean? Like we could have the players turn to a human and play half the game as humans, and either trying to become a Cenobite again, or somebody willing to die as a Cenobite to become a human. You know what I mean? Yeah. And be able to like infiltrate the witches that way. You know what I mean? Like give the players options. But the Cenobites aren't demons, Al. They're like they're something else. You know what I mean?
They're extra dimensional being.
Yeah, basically, like it was said in the chat, and we were saying earlier, they are all about sensation. They are creatures, and it's really through pain and pleasures. That's what they find pleasure in others' pain and suffering.
They actually feed off that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm actually going to rewatch all the movies, but I do remember that Pinhead was killed, and he came back to life on feeding off the pain of someone. You know what I mean?
Have you watched the new one with the female Pinhead?
Yeah, it was trash.
But what you call it? I had said it in the chat. If you had started a game like that where I was playing with, if you had never mentioned this and you said, "Hey, we're playing this, whatever," you say same premise, whatever, and then we go through and we beat the witches like hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, and then you say like you go to exit the front door and you see that. It's like on a space, whatever you like, however it's sci-fi twist. That's like an M. Night Shyamalan level twist. Because I would, in my mind, I would never picture that that it was on a space station or whatever have you. Like that dealing in that situation, and then to find out hey, we're in a closed off, the basement part of this bunker.
I just had a brilliant idea for you. You should take you need to add a third book, and the third book you should add is Darkest House. And use that for the laminate configuration.
No, you know what my third book would be? My third book would be First Responders, because I would when we dealing Cenobites are extremely freaking powerful, right? Or at least that's how I view them in my head. And I would even go the route. That's why I wanted to start the game with them not being able to use their power shifts. Because when they do break through that barrier, I wanted the players to feel the moment of, I now have massive power. And even though they're a tier 1 character, they're going to be a tier 1 character with 7 power shifts. You know what I mean? So I wanted to use the environment rules from First Responders, to be able to attack them with environmental, sucking the oxygen out of the space station, stuff like that, as opposed to fighting individual people. Because I wanted to give. I always try to experiment with using rules from another game to to see how they would handle that.
Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely cool. Though. I mean, I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that, but I'm not saying that. I wasn't saying that. I was just saying that the fact of the matter, thinking about how the darkest house is when you made mention of it, of them being on a space station or something, and the fact that the darkest house could be anywhere. Could you just like? I mean, just imagine using that as your laminate configuration.
You see, I'm a little conflicted because maybe my concept is like twisted in my head, right? But my confliction comes from these are the players are the bad guys. So should I be like adding horror to the narrative to affect them, or should they be adding horror themselves into my narrative to affect me? If that makes any sense, because the villains are going to be the players.
Well, here's the thing, though. You're right. The players are villains technically, but think about it. You could also make the NPCs villains too, because maybe they're trying to get the power of Cenobites.
Yeah, they assholes too. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, where is the horror coming from? Is the horror coming from me, like designing it into the narrative, or is the horror coming from the players adding it to my narrative? Is what I mean.
You could do it both ways, because do it this way. It would be the horror for the Cenobites would not necessarily be horror like we would think about it. It would be them losing power. As they're losing power, that's where when you start your horror mode against the players, the opposite side of the coin.
I wasn't planning to use horror mode. I wasn't planning to use.
I'm just using it as a term. I'm not saying that you were planning to use horror, but what I'm saying, that would be the horror for the Cenobites, because they're losing their power, or their powers are being slowly taken.
Or if I was planning to use horror mode, I think it would be the opposite. I would let the players spend the XP to create horror mode for the NPCs. Like once they break out of the thing, one of the players could be like, hey, they're now in horror mode because they understand the power of our abilities. And now the NPCs, every time they roll to attack and get a 20 or something, it'll go to a 19, or they'll get free player intrusion.
Yeah, I'm saying it's you could do it both ways, though, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
until they break out.
I think I'm more leaning towards letting the players build a horror narrative as opposed. It's something different. Like we're trying to experiment, right? So like,
what I'm saying is, but that's what I'm saying. You have your reverse, and that's like so freaking cool, because you're doing a reverse of horror mode. But I'm saying, but that would happen, like you said, if they broke out of the configuration. But while they're inside, you're doing it the opposite way, because if they're losing powers, if your witches are getting the one ups, that means more power is being taken from them, and you could do it in that manner. That's all I'm saying. It still will be. It's just going to be narratively flavored.
Oh no, you just helping me build it out, because I didn't even think of reverse horror mode till you mentioned the word horror mode, and now I'm starting to really like that idea.
I would say you could also, again, you as the GM have the power to, you want your players to act horribly or whatever, like villainous. You have to set them up, right? So one thing that would come to mind instantly as a way to easily set that up, just to see how far they're willing to push it, is, again, they're going to be weakened when they got out of this circle, right? Have some defenseless witches nearby that they're going to feed on to get their powers back. How do they describe it? How are they inflicting that torture upon these people to get their powers back? Like, because that's the whole premise of them. They need to inflict that pain, that suffering, and then they can feel powerful again after they tell you about that.
And as a group, like, one, this isn't going to be a game for everybody, because this is going to, like, I would have to have everyone read the body horror section and stay alive, because Hellraiser is definitely a body horror genre game. It definitely falls under the body horror. So, and that could be triggering for some, but it's like what you said. We would actually have to reflavor certain abilities to fit the body horror concept. You know what I mean? Which is the fun part. We all love doing that. You know, so I just thought that this would be an interesting idea, and I really want to explore this. You know, and I want the players to make me scared by the actions that they're doing. Because
Yeah.
me scaring the players is easy. I think I'm pretty good at that. I want the players to scare me for once. You know what I mean?
This is definitely the setup for that.
Yeah.
I gotta give you credit, Aaron. You pull a wild weasel out your ass like every couple of years with something really hella cool, and this is a big one. I really dig this. You know, when you first started talking about it, but as you explained it even more, it really is pretty damn awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this works out.
I have one last question for you about it. So, you know, setting everything up, you know, game starts out, everybody's fledgling invites and so on and so forth. Um, is there any more, do you have any more like idea on the actual story? Okay, we're Cenobites, we're fledgling Cenobites, just became so on and so forth. Are you going to build that into the canon, like story arcs, why we wanted to become Cenobites, or were we horrible humans or something?
Yeah, traditionally Cenobites they do something that if you follow like the Clive Barker rules, they did something unspeakable and horrible
Right.
to become a Cenobite. So I would think that at the beginning of the game, we would ask everyone like this is I hate asking players for like full backstory, but this is the game that I would want that. I would want, hey, how did you become a Cenobite? You know, and then we would design their powers based on what they said made them become a Cenobite. You know what I mean? Somebody was like a somebody was a serial killer, right?
Or somebody, yeah.
Then their Cenobite ability would have to do with slashes and like blades poking out of their skin. You know, somebody was a corrupt person. You know, like we'll try to capture the 7 deadly sins and let somebody pick a different sin and base a character around that.
So
I haven't really figured it out. I'm just like thinking it out now aloud.
And now that you said that, I got a great idea, because now, you know, we always talk about how horror sometimes is difficult to have multiple sessions. But what if you had one session that took place where they were still human and had them commit their crimes in order to be pulled into the laminate?
That's a hell of a session 0.
That would be awesome.
Session 0.5.
Or we could play it out too. Or we could play it out that the witches have an ability that while they trapped in the circle, that makes them go back to their original state and relive and see why they became a Cenobite in the first place. Yeah. And in the game itself, like it'll be a way of inflicting pain onto the characters to show the torture that these witches are doing as they draining their abilities. I'll make them reenact what they did as a human, or and as they're explaining it, it's draining ability from them.
That is hella cool, dude. That's what I'm talking about. That would be, I would love to do that.
I'm talking now, like I didn't think of any of this stuff.
Oh, I know. Well, that's how it happens. We start talking and our brains start, exploding. What do you mean? I have unique turn of phrases. What is that? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about you. You said weasels out something, and some dude responded like, weasels out what? How did they get in there? And I just said you have some unique turns of phrases.
Oh man, it's being a writer. Things come out of my head.
Yeah, but I think this is an interesting concept, and I like this experiment. And this all came from just people chatting in chat. And there is no not horror, but there is no evil campaign focus in any of the Cypher System books, I don't think.
No, not really.
Definitely unique concept, yeah.
This would definitely be an interesting way of doing the evil campaign. Like, I could definitely see it as a one-shot for sure. And definitely, I think it has enough legs to be an evil campaign.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool. I like it.
I'm horrible.
Like,
I see everything as one shots because I have a broken GM brain. Yeah.
So that was my idea. So far we had a genre that hasn't been covered. I took a particular setting that hasn't been covered. So what are you doing, Dean? What was your idea?
I don't know. I just wanted to combine, just want to tell Brilliant Loser, the martial arts thing is something else. But today when we were talking, it was superheroes. Everybody knows I love superheroes. So it's superheroes and sci-fi. And, I was thinking about like Legion of Superheroes. I was thinking about and like all those other things like that. And I just wanted to combine like stuff that I thought was cool to make this setting. So it's basically superheroes meets an alien invasion and a training academy style thing, but it's set in the far future. So what I did was I came up with Claim the Sky and Stars Are Fire. And it's basically from Stars Are Fire. I definitely went to the first chapter was Sibling the Sci-Fi Setting, which is page 12. And then, the biggest portion, I mean, I had a bunch of other stuff listed, but the biggest two portions from Stars of Fire are cosmic set pieces and their optional rules, where they started talking about post-humanism, which, the thought process, and then there was, and vehicles and spacecrafts. Those were the three things that from Stars of Fire that came up first. And then from Claim the Sky, character options, and basically ciphers and artifacts and worlds with superpowers. So those are all the different pieces from the books that really jumped out at me. And the concept is that far future Earth, the solar system has been colonized and terraformed and so on and so forth. Well, about 100 years ago, we lost a world ship and a secondary ship, which was a terraforming ship. They got lost, hadn't heard from him in 100 years, and then suddenly signals start coming back, and these signals state that the Omegans are coming, and so are we. And what you find out is that the terraforming ship and the colony ship actually had to combine into a even bigger ship in order to survive. And instead of terraforming a planet, the world ship is how it started doing post-humanism genetics experiments, and all the people who are supposed to be colonists are now superpowered beings, because that was the only way they could fight against this alien race that's coming towards the Earth. And, the concept is going to be that that world ship makes it back to humanity approximately 4 years before the alien invasion is going to come. Where you guys were thinking about one shots, I was thinking about like a full-on campaign where I could actually have the players go through the academy, learn how to use your powers, so on and so forth, and then have the alien invasion happen, down the line. And
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
and basically what I did was the character options on page 42 on Claim the Sky gave me the idea to kind of create templates to represent classic characters, and that's also kind of the concept from Legion of Superheroes, where they would say, this is a mentalist, and this character is a powerhouse, and this character is a blaster, and so on and so forth. So all of those little mixes and matches I came up with to kind of do that.
So it's essentially like just cosmic superheroes, right?
Yeah,
Like,
Guardians of the Galaxy, Legion of Superheroes, think of that kind of stuff, but
yeah.
with a focused story, and like I said, I came up with like creating these little templates. So basically, the idea is that characters would be able to pick. You would go ahead and make your character, but then you could pick a template, and there will be a template tier, every tier that you can pay for. You don't have to, but it'll cost you additional points on top of it, just like kind of the same concept of buying permanent powers in the game. Well, these tiers, you actually get you know, power, a group of power sets. So just to prime example, I did an example of a powerhouse. So the powerhouse template for tier 1 character, you don't have to pay extra for that. You get one automatically, but then any additional ones you want to buy next tiers up, you pay for. So at tier 1, a powerhouse will get resilience, which get, of course, plus 1 armor, combat prowess, endurance, and enhanced might, +4 to its might pool.
I'm a little confused on the concept of the story though. So is it sort of like if everyone has super abilities like quirks, or One Punch Man, how like a certain percentage of the world all have superpowers?
Basically, everybody, the player characters, the concept is basically you can play anybody. But the basic concept is if you wanted to play a superhero type, you were one of the people who were on the colony ship. So my concept was like there was 100,000 colonists on this ship.
Mm.
And when the colony ship and the terraforming ship with the super AI, when they combined, instead, like I said, instead of terraforming the planet, they use post-humanism genetics to advance all those people, which turned them into superheroes.
So what's the combination of books? Like, so are you using Stars of Fire for the post-humanism rules and the
Yes.
starship rules?
Post-humanism rules. Oh yeah.
Are the characters be able to fly in space?
No, that's the other thing. The characters. The characters. That was the other thing I forgot to tell you. All the characters will actually get an exoframe or whatever that allows them to kind of like a mech suit, basically, for them to be in outer space. Now some characters who may even be able to survive in outer space, maybe they have some sort of life support or whatever, they still get an exoframe too, because the exoframe is kind of like it catalyzes their power. You know what I'm saying? They need the exoframe. So I use the mech rules, combining that with the post-humanism. And so you have that genetic potential, but it only works in the exoframe.
Yeah, that sounds hella cool.
I
don't think Cypher has any superheroes in space.
No, actually, I don't think not too many people have superheroes in space.
Origin sort of has the post-humanism, like
the origin technically they have this strange event that happens that caused superheroes to happen, not necessarily post-humanism. And I mean, it has a extra dimensional space element to it, but that's like the secondary story, not the primary.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I'm just thinking that you could have a lot of fun, because now you really get to get that superheroic feel. You get to get that cosmic heavy feel, in the game. And then of course, like I said, it's set far in the future. I think I said 2299 for some reason. I picked that date, that year, thinking of it in the sense that humanity has terraformed the entire solar system. They've colonized our solar system. We've got people living on various planets and the asteroid belt, so on and so forth. So there's going to be that technology thing. So if you didn't want to play a superhero, you could still play a viable character. And then of course the Omegans, I didn't tell you guys about that. My enemy, the bad guy, I took a page. I was like, you know what? They always got, robots and, the Borg and stuff like that with Star Trek. But how often do you have a race that actually absorbs the organics? So they want all the organic material. So they actually consume the planets, the life. So they're like a race of beings who do what Galactus does and eats the actual living energy of planets. And so this is the reason why the concept of the post-humanism came up, so they could actually fight against an enemy that's that powerful.
Yeah, this is definitely a campaign thing because there's a lot of pre-written information that would need to be like laid out. Like you could do it in the one shot, but it would be a lot of explaining beforehand in order to. This is definitely it's a hella cool story, but it's definitely a campaign.
Well, and that's the reason why my brain has been stuck on campaigns lately, because there's like other things that I've been doing at the game store and people asking, so I'm stuck in campaign mode.
Jason wrote, which is a great idea, Jason. Jason wrote, you should each do this again, but you can't use your favorite book. Al can't use Predation, Spiggs can't use Stay Alive, and D can't use Claim the Sky. Absolutely right. And I would even take it one step further. I would love to get suggestions. Like give us a suggestion and see, like try to give us something that's you would perceive that's out of our wheelhouse and see how we would come up with something.
I would accept that challenge. Yes, so let's do a poll on the server and on YouTube and on Facebook, and have people give us a couple of books and a concept to put together.
Yeah, because definitely we all lean towards what we're comfortable with, but that's just human nature.
Yeah, well, man.
Like when I came up with the idea, I was immediately thinking Stay Alive. And I'm pretty sure Al, as soon as I mentioned it, Al went straight to Predation in his mind.
And I definitely went right to Claim the Sky, first choice, off the muscle.
So. Actually, the first thing I think I thought of was Magical Girls, and then the secondary idea was Predation, because you said you wanted 2 books. I was like, what could I add to Magic? Oh shit, companions, creatures, that makes sense. Like, so I actually think Predation actually came second in my thought process for this.
Hey, Jesus, well, I called everyone out. He absolutely did. You kind of got Dean wrong though, but you definitely nailed me and Al.
Yeah, well, for sure.
The only reason, like I said, I was trying to do something with what Anthony was saying, because I'm already working on some martial arts stuff. That's a private, that's a secondary or a project that wasn't what we were talking about. So it's kind of crazy that he brought it up.
Ultimately, the goal, I think what we were trying to do, I don't know if we accomplished it or not. I was trying to show like people on the server how easy it is to like you don't have to do all this extra work to incorporate a new genre or a cool book you saw or an idea you saw from a TV show and you want to recreate that. The majority of the stuff is already there provided for you, and with a little bit of elbow grease and imagination, you can recreate most things.
I was gonna, and I want to throw out there, because I've noticed, like even today in the last few days, there's been lots of discussions about interpretations of rules, or how to do this or how to do that, and like you're saying, Anthony, bringing up your best setting and so on and so forth. And that's kind of what we want you guys to understand, is that take a deep breath and step away from the idea of a whole lot of prep work, because Cypher does it for you. Like even the stuff that I'm talking about, for my character, making the templates and all that, most of my template work is just me reskinning stuff, giving stuff different names, or reskinning something that's already in the CSR.
Prep, right? I think that like when I think sometimes people get confused when we say, hey, yo, we're not saying don't do prep if you like to do prep. I just think that the prep for Cypher System is, and for narrative games in general, like Fate, a bunch of narrative games, this falls under Blades in the Dark, falls under the same category. The prep is different. You know what I mean? Like, because that's still prep. Like what are you doing? Reflavoring stuff is still prep. It's what you concentrate on your prep is different.
I think I think you're right. It was the word, and it's like Ken said, shift your paradigm. You have to look at your prep. That's my favorite line, shift your paradigm, because the prep is like you said, and it's different. The prep for Cypher System is more about what are you trying to evoke? What are you trying to bring to the table versus the mechanical aspects. We look at the mechanics in Cypher as a secondary thing versus how are we going to evoke the emotion and the idea and the concept? Because what you did with Hellraiser, Primo, Al, your magical girl, idea, like you said, we really don't talk about mechanics. We talked about conceptualization of combining what works in both games, in both settings or both books. So
I think a lot of times people get hung up on, hey, I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's my prep session. Like I have to develop scenes. I have to have full stat blocks of NPCs. I have to, when a Cypher GM goes, okay, I need a general concept. I need some GM intrusions for the players. I need some ciphers and artifacts, right? And like that's the general prep for a Cypher GM, and that isn't necessarily the general prep for, say, a D&D GM. It's more intensive. Like you actually have to like really plan stuff out. In Cypher, it's actually beneficial to have it vague, because there's way more instances where players can control the narrative in Cypher System that makes your prep work, like that generalization of prep, useless. Like it's a lot easier for a player to throw the monkey wrench in, all this prep you created, because they have control of the narrative and they have different avenues in which they can gain control of the narrative, if that makes sense.
Techman said one concept that's just a wild one is Buckaroo Banzai universe. Can anyone truly define it? Actually,
pretty much everything though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Buckaroo Banzai is just strange. That's what, just a strange, It's and you're right. You're absolutely right. It's just what we look at. I know for me, setting up my overarching idea, how many little places are going to be important for the players to get to, what NPC do they need to talk to or meet up with, those are my major preps, when I'm getting ready to start a game, because then the players are going to start filling in the blanks, especially if we're running a campaign, because I love my players that doing a campaign to have background, to have some story, in order for me to insert them fully into the narrative. I want them to have a reason to be there versus, oh, you're met in the tavern. I want them to have a reason to be in this world and doing what they're doing.
I will say this, that with the next line of Cypher System books coming out, Rust and Redemption, what's the other one called? The Modern Magic one?
Magic. It's only magic.
It's only magic? Cypher, I know it upsets a lot of people. We hear this complaint a lot of why there's only one book. Like they want more, which is a good problem to have if you're MCG, to be honest. But I think that when you build a generic system like this, them providing us these 2 books is like they taking us to the river, showing us how to fish. They're not giving us the fish, right? Mm-hmm. And now with like these additional books, you could pretty much do anything. Like there's a couple of genres they have, like maybe modern spy or martial arts and magical girl, like anime might be the only genres that they really haven't touched much. But everything else, like they starting to get to the point where they're hitting that GURPS level where now they're getting every genre covered.
And speaking of you may have brought up Rust of Redemption. at Gen Con, I got to run the Rust and Redemption um, adventure, that's going to be coming out with the book. And wow, all I can say is wow, because it it's crazy that it's like it's Numenera, but it's not. It's like Numenera in the raw, and it's so cool. It was really so cool to be able to jump in there and see that. And what you're saying, Anthony, is just that. Now you see that. Guess what? Numenera, you got Numenera way over here a billion years in the future, but now you can do, you know, the apocalypse happened 50 years ago.
Mm.
So you could actually play with the whole concept of, oh, what? This is the third world, but that's the ninth world. Things like that. It's like pretty cool.
I mean, that's the beauty of a universal system, right? That ideally, in a perfect world, you'll be able to pick any two books at random and combine them together and come up with a cohesive story, because mechanically they're going to work together. And now it's your imagination to figure out how to incorporate them.
And
so I think they're doing a hell of a job. I just want to correct myself. I'm not saying that that I don't want them to release other books. What I'm saying is, even if they don't, they're providing us with enough to create on your own. But hell yeah, I would love to see another Gods of the Fall book, another Predation book. Like I'm definitely on board to get more material. I'm just saying, even if they don't, there's still enough. You have hours and hours of material if you combine them.
I don't think any of us would say no to more support in already established stuff that they have out there. And I mean, in the reality of it is, Numenera is the perfect example of that. Because even with Numenera, as many books as there are for Numenera, it is still such an open world that you can go in there. It's a sandbox to create in. You could just throw a dart at the Numenera map, and go ape shit, with your creativity.
I know this is off topic chat, but if you could pick one setting book that could get another book, and I know we've had this conversation multiple times, what would it be? And I know Al's going to say Predation, and that would be my choice. Right, Al, that would be your call. So I wouldn't say Predation.
Nope, Gods of the Fall, baby. I want to see more Gods of the Fall. I can make up my own Predation shit. Give me more Gods of the Fall.
Yeah, that was gonna be my second choice, but then I'll take Predation. Predation definitely needs another book.
Honestly, now that we've talked about it, now that Claim the Sky is around, I want more Unmasked, because Unmasked is a fucking great setting. It is a great setting. Unmasked has so much story potential. When I ran freshman year on the server, I think I ran 8 sessions. Battle Sword, Corey Sparks. I think Bert may have been in that game. I don't remember, but it was such a cool. I ran freshman year, and we played from the first day of freshman year. These 14-year-old kids going into high school to the summer, and it was a blast. And I swear to goodness, if they had more stuff to go with that, just flesh out more of the lore of that world, man, I'd be all over that one. But I wouldn't say no to Gods of the Fall or Predation either.
Jesus says The Strange. Mike said Stars of Fire, The Revel. Yeah,
More Revel.
Definitely see more Stars of Fire.
The Revel is a great set. Well, see, now you didn't hit me in the heart, because if we're gonna talk about the mini settings, I want the one from Stay Alive. I love that version there, Sean K. Reynolds' version of the World of Darkness. That is just freaking, yeah.
Yeah, I think ideally, Predation needs it the most, but personally, I would pick Gods of the Fall, because I just love that setting. But I think Predation needs it the most, because one, I think it's hella popular and it's like a missed opportunity. Sometimes I think MCG doesn't realize how beloved Predation really is.
But but you could say that like with all 3 of those books. Those 3 books were the worlds of the Cypher System. When
Now,
that Kickstarter.
no, when we did our survey, it wasn't even close.
No,
Predation-
I'm not saying it wasn't close, and I'm not saying it's not popular. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying those 3 books, though that particular Kickstarter, I think if they could just somehow give back to that whole all 3 of those, it would be amazing. But like you said, Predation, just for popularity's sake, yeah. I mean, if it's a popularity contest, Predation wins hands down. Because who doesn't love dinosaurs and lasers?
There's so much to build. Like they could just build a bestiary for Predation alone. You know what I mean? People will buy that, and it's enough room to have a bestiary.
They could build a bestiary. They could actually build a book of basically just what do you call it, conclaves, and like if they did a book that just did nothing but expanded upon the factions, SETI, the butterflies. If they just did a book that expanded upon that, that'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, we were extremely off topic, but yeah, that's what we do. We go off topic. Well, just
I'll say it out loud because I was typing in the chat just to touch what Techman says. Would there be a set of books to create to fill the current age gap between No Thank You Evil and the rest of the Cypher genre books? Right. I don't think there's really unnecessary. Yes, unnecessary. How I would envision that. Let's say you have some kids and they're like getting older or whatever have you. You kind of you can use the No Thank You Evil system within those setting books, and then once they're comfortable with the more adult themes, then you can kind of introduce them into the Cypher mechanic because they're pretty darn similar.
More than that, if you look at how No Thank You Evil is set up, No Thank You Evil progresses. Look at how the characters are created. I am this, that, this. It's, you know what I'm saying? They end up finally actually writing a full sentence anyway. And when we played here at home, we had a group of the family, and we had from 6 years old to 15 at the time. And so I literally had 3 different levels of character in No Thank You Evil. And would have been nothing to transition the older kids into Cypher.
Jason, well, I don't think they'll revisit much. I think their way forward is a licensed IP like Old God's Appalachia, and paying the bills so they can do other oddities like Steal a Story. Yeah, that's absolutely the game plan for sure, and that's a successful game plan. They proved it for the last 3 years. I still think though that some fans would want to see like that. That is the game plan.
Yeah, we know the game plan, but everybody would go for it even if they did, revisit some stuff. Oh, that's pretty good. Solo RPG guy said something akin to Firefly Old West meets Traveler. That would be cool. That would be hella cool. Yeah.
Firefly is so awesome. It's an underrated show.
Underrated show, underrated universe. The
RPG.
We played the RPG. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. It used the Cortex Prime. Not Cortex Prime, just the old Cortex rules. But and then a friend of mine switched it up and started using Fate rules for it. But Firefly is freaking awesome.
Firefly was Cortex rules?
Yeah. Remember the Margaret Weiss games?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the license, and that's what they used.
That was one of those books that every time I went to the game store, I always looked at it and said, yo, I should pick this up. I can't get nobody to play this, and I wind up never buying it.
I think that was the best part about Arizona, was that I got to play Firefly. So, Cowboy Bebop and Firefly. Yeah, that's cool.
Nikolai wrote, licensed IP isn't necessarily bad. We're not saying it's bad at all. It's actually ingenious to do. Like we were talking about that last week. I think that's probably one of the smartest things they ever done. We're not trying to say it's bad.
Honestly, like we said, I think they've started a.
Let me finish reading the thing. You can pick and choose whatever minor tweaks, if even that will work. Yeah. Nowhere saying it's horrible. We actually think it's ingenious. We were just saying that that ideally we would like to see some of the older settings get return love.
So we're throwing it out there, MCG. We would like you to do a nostalgia Cypher Kickstarter or backer program.
We're doing it with the 10 adventures.
Yeah.
Aren't they adding? There's a strange adventure in there. There's a predation adventure.
There's a strange adventure. There's a predation. There was something else. There was another one that they mentioned.
Redemption adventure in there.
Oh yeah, Rust and Redemption is definitely going to be in there. I'm probably the one that I ran at Gen Con.
Yeah.
And they'll probably put the one that Shauna wrote, especially for Old Gods of Appalachia. That'll probably be in there.
Nikolai said there's a Cowboy Bebop RPG. You know what company makes that? That'll be hella cool too. I've never seen the Cowboy Bebop RPG. That's another underrated setting.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know they had a Kickstarter.
Yeah, Mike said it's on Kickstarter.
He said he kickstarted it.
Oh, that would have been a cool license for MCG to snatch up.
Now, just out of curiosity, guys, if they had picked that up, who would you have wanted to written that one?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm gonna go Bruce.
Bruce.
My choice too. My choice definitely.
I'm gonna go Bruce. That sounds like a Bruce.
Yeah, I would say Bruce too. Because I could see him just using like a lot of the concepts from Stars Are Fire to build the Bebop universe, and his style and flavor just would like make that shit cool as hell.
I think chat's agreeing with us as well. They all saying Bruce.
You okay over there, Al? Al?
Yeah, we're actually running kind of long here.
We lost Al.
No, I'm here. Very much still here.
Yeah, but we hella off topic for real.
Yeah.
But this is great chat. That's what we do, guys. Before I kick your spiel, Dean, Al, you want to say anything?
No, basically, supers in space fighting against a cosmic entity. That's what I want to do.
What you call it? Hellraiser universe, evil characters, Cenobites, and make me scared. That's what I want to do.
Oh, and I guess before you go into it, just the whole essence of this video, don't let the pre-established books within Cypher System keep you from running the idea you want to run. Just because there's not a book for it doesn't mean you can't execute that idea excellently with what's currently available.
I mean, Al said it.
Yep.
And if you guys don't believe it, just go look at some of our actual plays. Look at the adaptations that we've all done. Al does video games. Anthony is like the king of, obscure movies. Come on, in movies classics. I mean, he did John Carpenter's Thing, and by far one of the best games I've ever played in. But that's what we like to do. We like to take and adapt things just to show you the power of the system, so you guys can do that too.
If you like us and you like what we do, join the Cypher Unlimited, the Discord server for all things Monica games. We have the largest fan-run server for everything MCG. Go play some games, chat about games. Everybody here in this chat is probably members of the server. We have a great and loving community. But if Discord's not for you, join our Facebook group. It's not as big as our Discord, but there's still great conversations being had here. Like Al said earlier, follow us or sub here on Twitch is greatly appreciated. Or go to our YouTube channel and like, share, and subscribe there. We're really trying to build both these platforms up, and we really love it. Our videos are always free, but if you want to help us out financially in any way, give us a little donation on Ko-fi. It helps us out with little things like Zoom calls. Or go to our online store and pick up some cool Cypher Unlimited merch like the shirt Dean has or the hat I got on. And last but not least, the most important thing, we love you guys.
Yeah, we do.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for coming by. It was an excellent talk. And don't let your dreams be dreams. Run those games you want to run, regardless of what books are available. We can show you how if you need some help. And from us at the CU, we will see you later.